Hi, I'm Roxanne. So this is going to be my first makeup challenge. So my first challenge, I want to do one where it's a left versus right. And so for on the right side, I'm going to use my right hand. And on my left side, I'm going to use my left hand. I'm right-handed, so this side is probably going to be much better than this side. But let's just see how it turns out. So now I'm going to moisturize. This is the Glow Recipe Watermelon Pink Juice Moisturizer. My skin does get pretty oily by the end of the day, but this does help a lot. So primer is going to be my next step, and I have the Tatcha Silk Canvas. So I'm using my right hand for the right side, and I'll use this as an eye primer as well, just because I like the formula. It's convenient to kind of just keep using the same thing all over. So left hand, left side. And then I like to conceal before I start anything, just because I like to use a really thick concealer because it has fuller coverage. And then if I just dot the sections on my face that I want to conceal and then let it dry, it becomes even thicker and even more full coverage. So now I'll do the left side. The concealer I like to use as a primer base is Tarte Shape Tape. So I'll just get a Real Techniques Beauty sponge, and because it's such a mess, I'll normally just take whatever excess amount is up there. And I rarely use the doe foot because it's just so sloppy. It's such a mess. So just press it in. Same thing on the other side with the left hand. So far this is easy, but this doesn't really need any kind of skill to do. And I want to do a wing liner with just kind of a neutral brown eyeshadow, just because it needs to be a challenge. So that wing liner is where the real challenge is going to be. Trying to do a wing with my left hand, it's going to be a little scary. All right, so that's on there now. So now I'm going to set it, and I like to use the Kat Von D Shade and Light Contour Kit. I do really like the formula for it. The skin or the tones go well with my skin tone, so I feel like other people who have a complexion similar to mine would like these colors too. So what I'll normally do is just take that same beauty sponge that I used to conceal. I'll use the more cut end, and I like to use this one on the top, on the middle, and I like to use that to set it. And left hand, left side. It's important to set the concealer after because your eyeshadows they're using are most likely going to be a powder unless you're using exclusively gel formula, which would actually be kind of cool. But you need to make it matte again so that when you're putting the powders onto the shadow that it just blends and it doesn't get stuck on the primer, because your primer is more liquid and this is powder. So just set it so everything blends. Okay. So next, I'm going to start with my eyeshadow. So I said that I just wanted to do kind of a really easy kind of brown neutral look. So I finally got my hands on the James Charles palette. I think I'm going to be using Code James as the transition shade. No Beans to darken the crease. And, well, I do want to use one of these to highlight the brow bone. I think I'll use Sister to highlight the brow bone. Orange shade, Code Orange here, James Charles palette on the end, swirl it in a little bit, tap it off. And so for the first side, I'm going to start on the right. It's going to be easy. So windshield wiper motion. Easy so far. And then on the outer corner of your eye, you just want to swirl, little swirls. And it's good to use this kind of orange color as a transition shade because when you're doing browns, you don't want it to look too dark and too muddy. So this orange really brings some depth to it, so it looks a little bit warmer. And you need some way to get from the darks that are going to be here to the lighter color here. So just this transition color really helps to get all that blending going. And the left side now, feel very uncoordinated. Windshield wiper motions again, and it's always good to hold the brush closer to the end of the brush because then you have movement easier with your wrist. If you're holding it up here, you're kind of just, it just doesn't feel like I have as much control. When I hold it farther back, it just feels easier. Try both ways and tell me what you think. So now I'm going to move on to the darker shade, and I want to switch over from a rounded fluffy one to a more pointed fluffy one. The next shade I'm going to try using is No Beans, so stick it from the end over here, tapping it off just a little bit. And I just mostly want to concentrate it on this corner here, so I kind of place most of the powder on that corner and kind of work it in for a few seconds. And then then I'll start to kind of fade it out a little farther. Windshield wiper motion. I want to keep most of that color just right here. And kind of bring it into the center of the eye, not into the direct center of the eye, really kind of stay out of the iris section, and just kind of just to this corner here. So that's blended pretty nice, so I'm going to move on to the other side, left hand, left side. Blending is saving me right now. Is that wing? Okay, it's looking good. Okay, so for the center section, we didn't put anything there, but before I switch over to a different palette, I'm still going to go in with the color Sister here to highlight my brow bone. And I'm going to use a more pointed, smaller brush. It kind of has a more peachy shade, and the top one is a little bit more champagne, and since I'm going with browns, this peach one just kind of feels like it'll go. So you can kind of see how it's starting to come together. So now I do want to move on to a different color. I want to use just a little bit of shimmer. So this one I like to just use with just my fingertip. So just a little bit on my finger. And then just a little bit on that center section that we didn't put any shadow on. Left hand, left side. And I kind of just want to stay in this like bottom half moon section of my eye. So now I'm going to move on to my wing liner. And so normally when I do my wing liner, I will usually use this Beauty Blender. It's just like a silicone triangle that you kind of just lay across whatever angle you want to do. There's different sides too, so you can use whichever angle you're most comfortable with. I'm not gonna use this today because it wouldn't be much of a challenge if I use this, because it would just be easy enough to just lay it along and trace it really quick. And this is a challenge, so I'm not using this today. I'm just gonna use my own ability. So I always like to use a felt tip eyeliner with a really sharp end, and I'll show you why in a second. But the one I'm going to be using today, I got in an Ipsy bag too. It's from Kat Von D as well. It's the Tattoo Liner in Trooper Black. Okay, so I'm going to start on my right side. I'm going to bring my mirror a little closer. Okay. So the reason I like to use this style with this tip like that is because I'll just use the end and kind of stamp it onto my skin to create my wing. So I'll just use it here and kind of just stitch just whatever angle you like for your eye shape. Ooh, okay. All right, so I'll just kind of stamp it on my eye at whatever angle I like to do for the day. This one I want it to be pointed from the corner of my eye outwards towards where my brow angle would meet. So just kind of about there, and I just kind of stamp it on here. And you know what, I just had an idea. I think that I should start with my left side, because if it comes out really bad or like really thick, I can kind of match it up on this side. And I'm going to start with the left side. And now I'm really nervous. Okay, get this baby even closer. And I'm going to do the same thing I did on the right side, kind of stamping it on this side as well. So just using about the same angle as close as possible, and then just stamping it on. Just kind of running it towards my eye And then once that line is down, I'll just kind of start a little bit away from the end so that that's still the point. And drag it. This is a lot harder to do with my left hand. I'm getting it into my eye. Ooh, okay. And then just try to fill in. That doesn't look bad at all. So I think the hard part is going to be trying to get into this section here and tapering it to meet that end. So here we go. Maybe I've been left-handed my whole life because I'm not mad at how it's turning out. I'm kind of just using, and I do this on the right side too, but I'll just kind of set the pen down along my lashes and just glide along that to kind of create that really kind of clean line. And I'm gonna say done because adding anything more than what this is already at and to try to make it match on that side with this side, like I'm good. All right, so I think I'm gonna call it a day on the eyeliner. I'm kind of shocked right now, aka shocked at how this came out. Maybe I've just been living life wrong. Okay, so now I'm gonna put on some lashes because I was scared for this liner part, and this is almost as good, if not better than normal for me. Style that I like to wear from Flutter Lashes and Prestige. I like them because they're just really nice and fluffy. So the lash glue that I'm using is from Duo. It's this new packaging they have. It has both the dark and the clear on there. I'll usually curl my lashes while it's drying. My own lashes blend into the false lashes. So this should be dry, so then you can just put the lash on. I just pull my my lid and then tuck in the inner corner and then just kind of keep pushing on either side till it dries so that I know it stays in place. Okay, so that lash is on. Now for the left hand, left side, I have my other lash. Just gonna brush it out really quick. And same thing. Ooh! You know what? I forgot to curl my lash. It's harder to do this side because my left hand is in the way of seeing how to do it. My glue dried, so I gotta start again. So, okay. Oh God. Okay. Oh my God, this is just a blind shot in the dark. Okay, it's on. Okay, so I did notice that because I used the black that it did ruin my liner where it hit, so now I have to go in and clean that up. Alright, so I'm going to start with the right side because I need to boost my confidence a little bit. So right side, I'm going to go over my lashes just to cover up any glue. That side's good. I'm going to try to fix this mess over here on this side. Oh. I think I just need to stop. And that's as good as it's going to get. So yeah, okay.
Eyes done.
Foundation I use Born This Way in the shade Nude by Too Faced. I like the full coverage that it has. I forgot I had this. Full coverage foundation, so you don't want to get it into your hair. So I like to use the Morphe sponge. This end here, it's really nice. And I'll usually put 2 squirts on the back of my hand. I'm just going to do 1 squirt on this hand to do the right side and then the opposite for the other side. Okay, so the right side is done. I'm gonna go on to the left side. So I'm gonna put one pump on this hand now to do the other side. And left hand, left side. Okay, so foundation done. I'm gonna move on to concealer. And I like to use the Shape Tape again, just underneath my eye. Start on the right side. And then, so I'm gonna go back to the Real Techniques because I like the more pointed end for this when I'm doing my under eye. It just gets in there a little bit better. So taking that excess and kind of dotting it up and then blending it. Okay, so that's done too. So now I'm going to set everything. The setting powder that I usually use is the Laura Mercier, but I just kind of want to try something new, and so I just picked up the Fenty Beauty. I'm using the shade Butter. So I'm just going to use a really fluffy brush. This one's from Be Bella. It's the pointed powder brush. So since I'm just setting everything, I'm kind of just tapping it onto my skin and not like putting it on and dragging it across because I don't want to move any of my foundation or anything that's underneath. So now that drop my brush. So now that it's kind of been tapped in everywhere, now I'll go through and kind of dust everything just to make sure it's nice and evenly on there. And then move on to the left side. Okay, so everything is set. So now I'm going to go on to contour. It's a Kat Von D palette, like I was saying. I use this one to set my eyes. And I like to mix these two for my contour because this one's kind of more like the contour and this one's kind of more like the bronze. So together they kind of just skip one step by adding the two together now. So I like to use a fan brush. This one's from Costco actually. It's a Kirkland Signature brush. They don't make these anymore. So I like to mix these two together. And then this is really pigmented, so I'll just kind of dust it off a little bit. And then I'll just carve out my cheekbone a little bit here. You don't want to go the whole way down. You just want to stop like halfway. So I'll carve that out there and I'll blend it upwards into my hair here too because it kind of narrows in your forehead here. And then I'll run a little bit too along my jaw. And then I'm going to move on to the other side, mixing those two together, dusting it off a little bit. Now that I've applied the contour where I went with this brush, I like to use the Morphe E4 brush, which I think this is normally for blush, but I just like the way it hits the contour of my cheekbone to blend the contour in. Okay, so everything is blended pretty nicely, so now I'm going to bake a little bit just to kind of clean up. Maybe if this is going down a little farther here than I want it to, I'll just clean up a little bit so it just looks more chiseled and cut. And then underneath my eyes, with my Real Techniques Beauty Sponge and kind of press that concealer back into my skin. Okay. And then using the more cut end, dip into that powder and press it just right underneath your eye and dragging it down the side of your nose the whole way down. And then it kind of contours your nose a little bit without having to contour it. And I'm going to finish the right side since I'm on my right hand right now. And there's almost an invisible line from your ear to your jawbone here that you want to follow. I'm going to put a little bit on my chin too and on my forehead because I do have oily skin, so this is kind of like a preemptive strike on the oil, just kind of setting up that powder to be there so that when my skin does get oily, it has some powder to absorb it. But I do like to do my brows during this time just to get something done while I'm waiting. I like to use Anastasia dark brown brow powder. And I always start on my tail too because that's where most of the product should be. There shouldn't be too much product here. It should be kind of ombre almost and kind of fade to darker on the end. For the most part, I just fill in this top arch here a little bit more rounded so that it's not such a dramatic straight line here. So I'm just going to do that first. And I like how flat this is on the end too because I can kind of use it to straighten out my brows on the top and the bottom by kind of stamping it in. So I'm going to use a little bit of the light one. And a lot of people carve out their brows after. I never have gone into it. I know I should do it. It would just make my brows look a little bit cleaner. But I'm just going to be real with you guys that I don't normally do that. And then I have a little bit more unevenness on this bottom, so like I was saying, to stamp it in. To kind of use that as a straight line to keep this whole bottom part straight. and then like a nice kind of rounded arch on the top. And then so now I'll take this woolly end and I will blend it out mostly on the front here, because I just kind of want to see hair strands here and not so much of the filled in effect that I have going on here, just so it kind of looks a little bit more natural. If any of this makeup could be believed to be natural. So left side, a little bit nervous for this too, the same way I was with the eyeliner, but slow and steady. So let's see here. So brow's done. I'm going to wipe off the powder from baking now, and I'm going to be using that same brush that I used to apply the setting powder across my whole face to start with. I will say that I do notice the difference between the Laura Mercier and the Fenty Beauty is the Fenty Beauty has to be blended a lot more. The powder kind of stays in a more harsh kind of line. If I don't blend it as much, you can kind of see it's almost like a little patchy. I don't know if you can see. So I do have to spend a little bit more time blending the Fenty versus the Laura Mercier, but it's not a huge negative. The Fenty is a little bit more inexpensive than the Laura Mercier too, and it smells really good, so I think I would have a hard time deciding next time my setting powder runs out which brand to get. Now I'm going to move on to blush. I use a peachy tone. This is the blush that I will normally use. This was as a set of highlighter and blush. It's from not this last summer, the summer before, from MAC. This one is in the color Private Reserved. And then this peach blush is the one I'm going to be using today. Okay, so I like to use a fan brush when I'm doing my blush. Alright, so now I will move on to highlight. Right now I'm using this one from Dior. It's Dior Skin Nude Air Luminizer in 001. So I like to use this with the Morphe Y14 brush. And then I will wet my brush. I like to use Trader Joe's Rose Water Facial Toner. And then I'll just spray 2 sprays. And then grab my highlighter, swirl it a little bit, and then just apply it just to that top highest point of your cheekbone. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. Okay, and now that this side is dried a little bit, I'm going to go in with the highlight again without any additional spray and just kind of add a little bit more, almost to kind of set it in a way, and just at the very highest point only. And then same thing on the left side. Now at this point I'm going to add a little bit more eyeshadow underneath my eye to kind of really bring this whole look together. I'm going to use 2 same brown shades that I used before. So I'm going to use a little bit of that orange to start with, and that was in the shade Code James. So I'm going to use a Morphe brush again. This is a flat top brush. I like to use it because I can just kind of pack it onto that one area and then blend it out with a fluffier brush. I'll be using this one from Morphe right now after that. So I'm going to start with the Code James, that orange kind of shade. Take it off just a little bit. Just add a little bit, and then right over it, I'm just going to go over with the brown shade that we used in No Beans. Blend it out with that bigger brush. And then same thing on the other side as well. And you don't want to go much farther than the center of your eye, just at the pupil from there outwards, much farther in, and you just might start to look like you have too much darkness there. I am going to add a highlight in the center of the eye to kind of really brighten this area up too, but that'll be the next step. Oh, I blended that out. So now I'm going to do the inner eye highlight. And I think I'm just going to use that same peach color that I put on my brow bone in the color Sister. And I'm going to use that same smaller pointed bristle as well. So last step, I think, for the eyes is going to be a little bit of mascara. Right now the one I'm going to be using is from Milk. It's their Kush mascara. I did really like the formula, but the brush wasn't my absolute favorite, but it was still a good brush. You don't want to forget to add mascara to your bottom lashes, especially if you're wearing false lashes, because you just want to have a little bit of symmetry kind of from the top to the bottom. I think one of the last steps is going to be doing my lips and then setting spray, and then I'll be all done. For the lip combo that I'm going to be using today, I'm going to be using MAC, and it's in the shade Viva Glam 2. So I like to start with the lipstick and then do the lip liner. I just feel like they kind of blend together better when I do this one first and then layer this on top. So I'm going to start with the right side and then move on to the left side. Now that I have the lipstick down, I'm going to line my lips now. And I do overline my lips just a little bit, and I will only do it on the outside corners of my lips here just to add a little bit more fullness to just the sides. I don't overline on my Cupid's bow at all, just on the sides here and a little bit maybe at the bottom. Lips done, so time for setting spray, and then I think I'm done. And I really am not totally unhappy with how the left hand turned out. Alright, so this is the finished look for me. I hope you liked this video. If you did, subscribe and like, turn on your notifications so you can watch my new video next Sunday.